Hi, I'm Caroline Mitchell, Canine behaviourist at Good Doggy. So people with rescue dogs are regularly asking me about what kind of stuff will their dog actually remember from their past. If you have a rescue dog of your own, you may be wondering about their past experiences and how much of that really just features in their mind on a daily basis or on an hourly basis even. But the thing is that our dogs mostly really just live in the moment. We kind of all know that. And whilst dogs don't dwell on their past experiences, they do remember them. They're not gone, they're in there, but they remember them kind of in their own way. And their experiences that they've had in the past do affect their future choices and their different reactions that they may have now and in the future. So we know that those memories aren't gone anywhere. They just don't really sit and think about them. So our dogs are not stuck in the past. Humans tend to recall and relive experiences quite a lot, and we will compare those to other experiences we've had. So we might think that our new house, for example, is better than the old one. Hopefully it is. Maybe this one has a bigger garage, which is better because you've got two cars now and you only used to have one garage. Maybe you have a bigger garden or a prettier garden. Perhaps this one was better looked after, and it's got lots of lovely mature trees and it's been there a long time. Or maybe you have a lovely fireplace in the last house. And your last house just had a little yard, and there was a little bit of garden space, but really it was just a lawn. And you had those stupid storage heaters in your last house, So we can sit for ages and think about this stuff. We can think about what we've got now. We can think about what we had in the past. We can go back further than that even. We can think about our childhood. We make comparisons all the time. So our brains are really active all the time, recalling and replaying memories and experiences. And our brains will just constantly just torture us sometimes with this stuff. But dogs don't do this. Rescue dogs don't sit around and think about their previous home. They don't compare their life now to the one that they had before. They don't think about their last family and how mean they were, or, they don't think about their last garden. Maybe their last garden had a nice big tree in it they like to pee on, but your garden doesn't have a tree like that. So they have to go to the park to have a tree like that. They don't think about all of this stuff. They just take what they have at face value and deal with what's in front of them at the time. So, what your dog mostly will be considering is, does this new house meet my needs or not? They're not comparing it to the old house. They've forgotten about their old house. That is until a memory gets triggered. So all of the memories, things they've experienced, every encounter they had with another person, that time the postman came to the front door but forgot his parcel and had to go back to the van, all of those little memories, everything that's happened to him in his life, it's all in there. And his brain is still using them to decide how to react to new situations. So the brain is learning and processing and doing all of that. It's storing that same information and making notes on how stuff was handled in the past, So maybe, for example, in a previous home, your dog got squirted with a lemon juice squirter, and he didn't like that. So that memory will be there, but he's not sitting around all day going, God, thank God they got rid of that lemon squirter. I hate that lemon squirter. That used to just really annoy me. And, next time I see that lemon squirter, I'm going to do this, just the same way that we would just relive experiences like that. And we don't just relive them, just like in that scenario, we talk about how we might next time solve it. We really go over and over and over these situations a lot of times, especially when they're not good ones like this. We very rarely go, oh, that time I went to the park and played with all the dogs. Next time I do that, I'm going to do it differently. We all think about things we would do differently when they didn't kind of work for us the first time. So in this scenario, the dog's thinking of, of the lemon squirter, except that he's not. Those thoughts are not going through his mind until you're in the kitchen with your dog, you reach into the cupboard and you get something out of your cupboard that looks like that Jif lemon squirter. And at that point then, the brain gets triggered. This situation is reminiscent of something that's happened in the past. It wasn't a good experience, so the brain then just immediately puts you into defense mode and the dog reacts to that. So maybe the family member he goes to grab the squirter out of the hand or something like that. The dog has not compared the situation properly because his brain has immediately gone into reactive mode. So if it had have done, his brain might have gone, don't be silly, it's pancake day. You know, they're making pancakes. This is normal. They're just going to put it on their pancakes. Or it might have even gone, that's not even the square. It's just a round yellow looking thing. But it didn't need any of that. It just needed to feel similar enough that it triggered then a response that is appropriate according to his past experience. So he's not thinking this one through, he's not making plans, he's responding to that past experience, but right now, because the situation feels similar enough. So that memory has now been triggered at this point, and it has forced a behavior change, which is more relevant to situation in the past than to this one. So that person has had their hand grabbed, and on this occasion, that meant then that they didn't get squirted. They weren't going to. We know that. But again, the brain is not putting all these pieces together. It's not thinking about the stuff in a logical way. It's just going, this is similar to that time. I must react. So the reaction was, grab the hand, didn't get squirted. So the goal was met. The dog did not get squirted. Nothing bad happened as far as the dog is concerned. So therefore, this is going to go down as something that is most likely to be repeated. But the dog has not spent the last few months thinking, recalling, churning that memory, turning it over and over and over, thinking about new responses. But it is in there, and it came through when something similar triggered that memory. So we know that similar experiences will trigger responses. In that case, the past experience was unpleasant, so the dog's reactive brain kicked in and tried to avoid an unpleasant outcome. The reactive brain isn't smart. We can see that. He's not looking for evidence. He's not looking for facts. He's not trying to make plans. He's not coming up with the best solution. It just reacts using the information that was available to it, and not all of it. It will just go what feels the most relevant, and it reacts just to that. So we know that this family member was not planning on squirting the dog. They were making pancakes. The situation was just similar enough that the reactive brain kicked in and took over. We know that the GIF container was yellow, so something else that is yellow might also start to trigger these thoughts. So maybe a tennis ball being moved, or something that's a similar kind of shape might trigger it. Somebody reaching up to a high cupboard. Perhaps the water squirter was kept in a cupboard in its previous house, but he won't worry about that stuff in the meantime. It's only when similar things happen. But because we can see that similar experiences can trigger responses based on old experiences, this is how the problem spreads. So it started off just being that water squirter from that place, and it took the person to squirt it before the dog would react to that. Now you just need to reach in a certain way. You need to pick something up that looks like it. You know, maybe even just pointing something else towards the dog. Maybe you've got a packet of, something in your hand. You don't know what it is, but you're just going to point it at them and say, do you want one of these? That could be enough. That hand movement doesn't have to be the full experience every single time to warrant the same response. So this is how behavior problems can grow. This is how anxiety can grow, and it starts to suck in new things. So a dog that is reactive to a dog that maybe has attacked them once in a park. So a small black fluffy dog attacks your dog in the park. And the next time your dog sees that small black fluffy dog, then he'll respond in the way that he feels like he should have done based on what he's learned from the first time. If that works, and it's quite triggering and it's a very unpleasant experience, then the next time it might be any small black fluffy dog. After that, it could be any small black dog. It doesn't have to be fluffy anymore. Maybe it doesn't even have to be small anymore. It could just be any black dog or any small dog. Eventually, it will just be all dogs. And then it will be things that look like dogs at a distance. So it could be a person walking with a toddler or carrying a bag or, dragging one of those little shopping trolleys behind them. So that's how these things start to escalate. So it's only got to be similar in order to trigger a response that would have been triggered for the original thing. But we can see, though, that so the memory is not reliable. Our own memories are not particularly reliable either, and especially when it comes to detail. False memory is a real thing, and every one of us can recall memories from our past that didn't even happen, and this can happen. So it doesn't matter how specific it is, it doesn't matter how clear it is, it doesn't matter how detailed it is. As long as it's similar, it's good enough. I really hope you're getting lots of useful hints and tips and ideas from watching the videos here on my YouTube channel. Behaviour training, though, is a complex thing, and there are so many variables and options and different ways to approach things. And sometimes working on it alone can feel quite lonely and frustrating at times. Sometimes you'll question whether you're doing the right thing or whether you might even be making things worse. If this is you, don't worry, I'm here for you. Privately, I can guide you through and support you through the process wherever you are. We'll start with an assessment session where I'll get to know your dog. I'll get to learn what makes him tick, any history. We'll learn about the behaviours you need help with. And then once we've figured out what's gone wrong and what techniques will suit him best, we'll make a plan just for him. Then we'll follow up with a series of private sessions where we'll address the root cause, work on related behaviours, boost resilience, and build on the behaviour training plan together until you have something that is working for you both. If that's something that's of interest to you, please check out the information on this video for details about how to get in touch and how to find out more about how I can navigate you through this process. So when things get repeated often enough, our dog will then start to form expectations. This does again use memory, but there is no preemptive thought. It's just a reaction based now on an expectation. So the situation itself becomes less important. So they're not necessarily being triggered by a memory. This is just an expectation of something that might happen next based on other elements. So I've already mentioned that dogs live in the now and are only really triggering memories when a reaction or response is needed quickly. So instead of reminiscing on the life they once had, maybe thinking about sharing rich tea biscuits with grandma on the sofa, she's no longer with us, or they're thinking about abuse or neglect from their past, anything that they've experienced, they are assessing the situation they're in. They're not sitting there worrying and pondering and, all of that. They're just going, I know where I am now. It's either good or it isn't. So your dog, if they've had a terrible past with abuse and things, is not sitting there thinking about that, reliving all of that abuse over and over again while they're just lying on the floor in front of you. They're just going, I like it here, it's nice. They are just judging themselves in the now. They don't look back fondly, they don't look back regretfully, and they only act accordingly at the time when they need to make a reaction. They just enjoy what they have right now. And how great is that? See you in the next video. Take care.